So guys, let's recap what we have covered till now. So first we have discussed the definition of lease. On the inception date, the parties must identify whether the contract is or contains a lease, and lease is defined as a contract where if the contract conveys the right to control the usage of identified asset for a period of time in exchange for a consideration. So here the important terms are right to control the usage of identified asset should be conveyed to the customer. Now, for a period of time, this period of time will define, and ultimately this will become your lease period. A consideration will become your lease rentals eventually. So presently what we have covered is these two aspects we have covered. Now, anyway, right to control the use, that means the customer, whoever is using the asset, or in whose whoever has taken the asset from the supplier, whether that customer is he having the right to control the usage of the asset or not. For that, two conditions you have to satisfy. Substantially all the benefits arising from the usage of the asset during the period of usage should go to the customer, and the decision making rights also should be there with the customers. Prima facie only 2 points. Of course, 1 or 2 note points are there. Economic benefits means primary output, secondary output, that's a byproducts, any other third party subleases, all these benefits, and not the benefits which are related to the ownership. Right to direct means all the decision making rights. In some cases, how to use the asset and when to use the asset is predetermined. In that case, you have to see at least whether the lessee or the customer gets to operate the asset. In case he is not getting the chance to even operate the asset, then you have to see whether lessee participated in the designing of the asset, so that because of that designing participation only, the how and what got predetermined. So in that case also, the point is as good as satisfied. Next, sometimes the owner of the asset, whom we call him as the supplier, is supplier of the asset might have certain protective rights. Our protective rights are kind of restrictions only, but that restrictions are kept to protect the interest of the supplier in the asset, not to exercise your decision making rights and all. So presence of protective rights is no way contradiction to your satisfaction of second point. The next part is identified asset. Identified asset, 3 points only are there, sir. The asset must be identified in the contract either explicitly or implicitly. Explicitly, the clearly asset model, make, year, brand, color, location, all these things will be mentioned. Implicit means some other way you signify that this particular asset only is going to be used for the purpose of this contract. Next, important discussion in this is physically distinct. That means you can take a complete asset, a part of the asset, or a portion of a floor, anything is okay. Only thing is which portion you are going to have control. A portion must be physically identified. It should be physically separate from other portions. That should be clearly indicated. If a asset is not physically distinct, then there is no identified asset. But there is one exception for this rule. What is that? Even though the asset is not physically distinct, still you can call it as identified asset if you have contracted to take substantially all the capacity of the asset. In that case, then there is no issue. Then we have discussed in this substitution rights of the supplier. Sometimes the supplier of the asset have a right to replace this asset, and in this place he will give another asset. Normally, if that rights are there, we have to see whether that rights are considerable or not. A considerable and a word ki standard uses the word called as substantive. If the substitution rights are deemed to be substantive, what you have to ultimately understand is the supplier is going to replace the asset. When he is going to replace the asset, then there is no identified asset for you. Because when you say that I have control over a particular asset, but asset itself is going to be replaced, means what control are you having now? So basically, a substitution right he might have. What we have to see is whether that substitution right is substantive or not. When will we consider them substantive is if the supplier is having practical ability to substitute, and he is also having a profit motive if he does the substitution. Practical ability means availability of a similar asset, the or the distance between the customer and the supplier's place, so that he has to incur certain costs and then he has to bring another asset. So considering all this, you have to determine whether it is practically possible for him to substitute or not. As far as the economic incentive part is concerned, the lessee or the customer need not do any roving investigations as to understand whether really benefit is there or not. If from a lessee's perspective, if lessee is unable to determine any of this, you treat that substitution rates of the supplier are not substantive. Not substantive, therefore there is a identified asset for you. So up to here we have discussed it, sir. We have written notes also. Next, ideally we should discuss period of usage, that is about the lease term. So which point is this? No pointer. Okay, heading only, right? No problem. Okay, put the heading, sir. Inception and commencement of lease. Inception. Normally, inception, a word ki meaning is a beginning, but commencement also means a starting only. So, general layman terms lo, inception, commencement, they both signify the same meaning, no? But here, there is a difference for each of them. So, we'll see what is the difference. One is inception date. It is earlier of date of lease agreement or date of agreement rate. Date of commitment by the parties to the principal terms and conditions. Inception date is relevant for identifying whether the contract is or contains a lease. Okay, coming on to the other side. It is the date on which lessor makes the asset available for use to lessee. This is the date from which lessee start recognizing asset and liability. That means the main recognition accounting will start only from the commencement date, and that's a very obvious point, sir. Without I having the control over the asset, how can I record asset in my books? You and me both wrote the agreement today. but you will give me asset only after 3 months. How can I record asset today only in my books? Asset are not there, no sir. So ROI asset I cannot recognize right now. I can recognize only on the commencement date. So that's an obvious point there. I could have made it simple by writing that this is the date when accounting starts, but that, if you understand in the right sense, that is not wrong. But if I simply say that commencement date is the date when accounting starts, small confusions might come. For example, this is inception date, this is commencement date. On inception date, when the parties wrote the agreement, let us say the lessee paid some advance to the lessor. When he pays advance, will he write entry or not? He does not have a choice, sir. To bank entry has to be written. So accounting has to be done on inception date only there. What is done on commencement date is asset recognition and lease liability recognition is done on commencement date and onwards, sir. Not before that. Our point of view, accounting in a word is not very appropriate. Accounting of these two will start on that date. That is more correct. So fine, sir, this is inception and commencement date, and the purpose of or the relevance of this is this. Okay, next. Now coming back to our period of usage, which we call it as the lease term. Sir, once right to control the use wala point and identified asset wala point is satisfied, it's almost certain that this contract is a lease contract, because lease term and all, it's a matter of agreement, no sir. So, and moreover, there is nothing called as operating lease and financing lease, no. So depending on the period of usage, I will decide whether it is a lease or not, nothing like that. So a period and how to compute, little guidance is given. Now you can write later on, sir, timing watch. Sir, this fellow is a lessee. This boy is a lessor. There is a building. A building is the asset which is identified asset which is being discussed for the purpose of the lease transaction. Now, non-cancelable period is equal to 5 years. That means they both agreed that once the lease starts, compulsory the lease should run for a period of 5 years. Lessee also cannot cancel, lessor also cannot cancel. So 5 years pakka you have to take. Plus one more point is there. Option to extend the lease by 3 years. So once 5 years lease period is over, if lessee wants, he can vacate the building, he can give the asset back to the lessor, or if lessee wants, lessee can even stretch the lease term by another 3 years also. Even that is given in the contract. Now, based on this, you have to tell me what is the lease term. Definitely 5 years is there, correct? Plus, after 3 years, whether I should write I should not consider. As on the first day, because a lease term is something which has to be determined on the commencement date. So, suddenly even we are discussing right to control, identified asset. Instead of going to lease term, why I made you write this point here is, inception and commencement wala point, a lease term determination should be done on the commencement date. This is going to impact your accounting number basically. Now, ROI asset to lease liability, if you are writing amount for how many years ka lease rents I should discount. If I have to know that, lease term I have to decide now only, commencement date. So, how much should be the lease term? 5 years non-cancelable period, definitely I will take. But extra 3 years should I add or should not add? Whatever standard says is, if 3 years also you add, if it is reasonably certain that lessee will exercise the option to extend. So whether you will add the 3 or not is a matter of your assessment on the commencement date. Standing on commencement date, if you feel that as a lessee, you are going to extend, you are going to exercise that option of extension, then yes, you consider. No sir, now I don't feel, Okay, don't consider, take only 5 years. So it's a matter of assessment by the lessee on the commencement date. Now immediately one doubt will come. Sir, first day I had no feeling, sir. I thought that it is only 5 years. I started accounting first year, second year, third year. Fourth year I felt that I am going to extend, and now what to do? So all these are reassessments, sir. That's part of our discussion. We'll discuss that. All that will be there. We'll discuss all that. Okay, so timing step by step. So what did you understand is non-cancelable period plus lessee's option to extend the lease. This also you have to take. Okay, now I'll give you another example. Watch this. Lease period in the contract is given as 10 years. It's drafted like this, but any time after 7 years, lessee has option to terminate the contract. So that means before 7 years he cannot terminate. 7 years pakka he has to take the asset, he has to use the asset. So indirectly I am saying that if 7 years is your non-cancelable period. So if I ask you what is the lease term according to this standard, is 7 years pakka I will take. Mara extra 3 years should I add or not? Again simple, same answer again. Sir, this one and earlier example both same, sir. Drafting no difference. Earlier what did I say? Option to extend. Here what am I saying? Right to terminate. Either way, whether it will be extended or now only the lease will be terminated, they both are same, sir. If you stop extending after 5 years, or here you exercise the option of termination, both will mean the same thing. Okay, so here will you consider this additional 3 years period into your lease term or not? You have to decide on first. Decide means you have to assess on the first day. So you add this 3 years if it is, help me rating, reasonably certain that lessee will exercise or will not exercise? Will not exercise. Will not exercise option to terminate. Sir, you are adding that extra period. If you are adding that extra period, if that is an extension right, I have to believe that right will be exercised. If it is a termination right, I have to believe that a right will not be exercised. That means the lease will be continued for the full 10 years period. So then only you should add. No sir, I believe that he will terminate. Then don't add. Simple answer is only 7 years. Like that. Next, look at another case. I'll make you write all this in points. So just go and listen. Lease contract period of 10 years we wrote. 5 years fixed, sir, which is non-cancelable. Now after 5 years, any party can terminate. And any party in the sense, lessee, lessor, can terminate the contract with an insignificant penalty. Now, you observe this. Earlier case lo, sir, original lease period was 5. If I want, I can extend it by another 3. E case lo, contract period is 10, but if I want, I can get out at the end of 7th year. Both in a way, it sounds like same because in both cases it is lessee's choice only. If he wants, he will extend there. If he wants, he will terminate the lease here. Either way, lessee handle no, sir. It's not just the drafting change. There is one more impact here. Here, after 5 years, if you say, sir, I don't want any extension, I want to leave, you can leave. Here, after 7 years, if you want to terminate, you might have to pay some penalty for cancelling the contract. Right is there with you. You can terminate, but you might have to pay some consideration to the lessor. Okay, so choice is with the lessee only, but penalty will be there generally in this case. Suppose in this case, I am not talking about lessee lessor. I'm saying that any party can cancel the contract any time after 5 years with an insignificant penalty. Insignificant penalty means it's as good as a penalty not there. Lease rent 10 lakhs per annum, sir. Penalty 10,000. Any time you can cancel the contract. Standard says 5 years is definitely lease term, there's no doubt. Additional period is there, no? Additional period should not be considered. Why it should not be considered is, suppose sir you are a lessee. You says, sir I want to extend it, I want to use it for another 3 years. Next day morning lessor comes and says get out. Because both the parties have right to terminate, no? Just by paying a chiller penalty. So, it is not your right to extend or right to terminate of one party. Sir, if both parties have got right to terminate, you can't trust now. Suppose today I will say, I will continue. Next day morning he will come and say, irrespective of your decision, I have a right to terminate the contract, he will terminate it. So, an extra period you should not take. If it can be cancelled by any party without paying any significant penalty. Insignificant penalty, so somebody can close the contract means our period don't consider. Because reason is simple. Because it is not enforceable. No party can enforce this extra period against the will of the other party. Suppose sir I am lessee, you are lessor. 5 years is over. I genuinely want to use this asset for another 5 years. But is it my choice? It is possible and only when you also should approve that. So I cannot enforce this. When I cannot enforce on me staying in that building, how can I say that I am having control on that building and capitalize that? So don't consider that extra period. Consider yourself only the first 5 years like that. There is one more example. If I have given it here, then I'll show you or else I'll discuss it with you. Okay, listen. It is there, but it is very lengthily given. I'll keep it simple. Sir, lease period is 10 years, sir. After 7 years, lessor has option to terminate. Already we did a case of lessee option to terminate. It is the lessor's option to terminate. You are lessee. Okay. You tell me what is your lease term here. 7 years, definitely yes. 3 years extra, we should add a, don't add a. Don't add a. Why? Not any time. At 7th year, if he wants, he can terminate. Who? Lessor. It's not like any time he come and ask me to get out. After 7 years, at 7th year time, he can ask me to get out. If he doesn't say anything, then I can continue for another 3 years. So today, I should keep it for the purpose of accounting. Lease term is 7 years or 10 years. Sir. 7 years. Okay. Okay. Listen. Welcome to India once again. Listen. Our first point is, if it is lessee's option, then what will you say? You will consider or you don't consider depending on what lessee is likely to do after 7 years standing as on today. Standing as on today, you make an assessment. If lessee is likely to terminate the contract, then don't add. If he is not likely to terminate the contract, then consider that 3 years period, lessee point of view. But the right is there with the lessor. Now what our standard prima facie believes is, lessor does not have a reasonably certainty that he is going to terminate the contract at 7th year. It is the prima facie belief. Why? Sir, if he only is very reasonably certain that he is going to terminate the contract at the end of 7th year, why the hell will he agree for a period of 10 years? Sir, if I am agreeing for a period of 10 years, and you tell me that it's very reasonably certain that I will cancel the contract at the end of 7th year, and lessor has to pay penalty for that, will I do that? If I am very reasonably certain that as a lessor I cancel the contract at the end of 7th year by paying penalty, why the hell will I keep the lease period itself as 10 years? Contract period I would not have kept it as 10 years. No, I would have kept it as only 7 years. So it is not reasonably certain that lessor will cancel the contract, and therefore from lessee point of view you have to take entire 10 years as the lease term. Subsequently if he cancels, how to do, we will see. The reassessment of lease term. So separate discussion. We'll come to that later on. Okay, this is one case. If either option is there with the lessee, then the answer is easy. At 3 years also you have to add, if it is reasonably certain that lessee not going to exercise the option. Sir, if both the parties have a right to terminate, if both the parties have a right to terminate with an insignificant penalty, then an extra period you don't consider. You stick yourself to only 7 years period. That's already discussed. This is given as one big example in the material, but anyway, I'll make you write simple things. Okay, sir. So, overall, what did we discuss here is, this example say you have to write story laga, nothing. Non-cancelable period is pakka lease term. Extension period also you can add if lessee is likely to extend. Termination, the period beyond the termination period also you can add if lessee is not likely to terminate. Lessor's right to terminate the lease should not be considered. Both the parties have right to terminate the contract any time, a period do not consider. That's all we have discussed till now. Okay. Now, sometimes reassessment of lease term also can happen. Reassessment of lease term is, sir, prima facie lease term is 5, basic. If I want, I can extend it for another 5 years also. This is extension period. Extension option lessee is having. On the first day, when 0 time, commencement date, lessee thought that lease term will be equal to 5 years only. Why 5 years? Because option to extend he is not going to exercise, and he believed, so he took it as only 5 years. If you take it as 5 years only, entire your accounting and all will come to an end by the end of 5th year. Now what happened? 1 year over, 2nd year over, 3rd year over. Somewhere in the 4th year, let's say, here you are standing and you are rethinking. You now feel that extension option may be exercised, which makes the total lease period to original 5, now another 5, total it is going to become 10. Sir, can I change like that? Of course you can change. Reassessment or assessment of lease term is a matter of estimate only. Originally estimated that I will use it only for a period of 5 years. Now because of change in situations, I want to use it for the remaining 5 years also. So definitely we can reassess. Normally, a type of ideas, how you can conclude is, they have given some examples, sir. Suppose I took a building on lease. After taking this building on lease, inside the building, a building prima facie lease is only 5 years, plus another extension also is there 5 years. I originally thought that I will use only for the first 5 years. But what happened is, in the 3rd year, I have incurred a heavy expenditure on something called as leasehold improvements. Leasehold improvement means a building inside all this woodwork, all these shelves and all, with my money I kept. A building is not mine. Building is not mine, but inside extra wall, extra flooring, interior designing, all this I have done. Now, the assets what I have created or constructed inside this building, these assets have a life of 8 years. But originally building ka lease term, you assess it to be only 5 years. Now after incurring this leasehold improvement, tell me sir, within next 2 years you will vacate this building? Huh? No. You have incurred a huge expenditure on a building, and to extract the benefit out of the huge expenditure what you have incurred, you have to use this building for the full year, full extra 5 years period also. So because of things like this, you might reassess the lease term. Sir, reassessment about how to do accounting, sir. Original accounting you don't know. Reassessment accounting, lot of time is there. So you don't think about the accounting part. Just understand that reassessment is possible because of reasons like this. Next. Now sir, same example, but a different story. Sir, I have taken a 2nd floor on lease, sir. Same example, sir. So 5+5 model, I originally thought that lease term is only 5 years. But the business what I'm conducting in 2nd floor has become a super hit. Let's say I'm doing some restaurant business. It is so hit that people are waiting 1 hour, 1.5 hours, like beggars outside. So what I did is, recently when I am in third year of the original lease, I also took the third floor also for a period of 7 years. Now you tell me, what is the chance of second floor ka option to extend getting exercised? Second floor, original lease term 5 years, sir. But I have an option to extend it for another 5 years. Originally, I was having no hopes. I thought the lease term is only 5 years. But unexpectedly, my business became a super hit. In third year, to accommodate the crowd, I even took the third floor also. And third floor ka lease is 7 years from the end of third year. Which means, is second floor ka lease, what do you feel, sir? Is it going to be extended or not? Yes. In that case, reassessment of lease term has to be done. I took a machine, sir, on lease. Primary period 5 years, extension is there for another 5 years, overall 10 years. On first day, this fellow very confidently he thought that he will definitely exercise the option of extension. And therefore, he took lease term as 10 years. What happened? In fourth year, 4 years is over. In fourth year, government said that whoever using this type of machine, you are creating a lot of pollution. Heavy penalty will be levied if you are using this machine. Now you tell me, sir, what is the chance of me extending that lease? No. So because of that, I will again do a reassessment. Originally thought 10 years. Now it is becoming only 5 years overall. So because of reasons like this, lease term, whatever you determine originally on the commencement date, a lease term might be changing again at a later date. Accounting we will see later. Okay, right, sir. So under lease term, write the points. So lease term is equal to non-cancelable period plus period covered by option to extend the lease. Cut brackets we should write. If it is reasonably certain that lessee will exercise this option. Careful, sir. E point I am talking only for the lessee, not for lessor. Lessee pointer. Next, period covered by an option to terminate. Sir, is standard almost up to some 65-70% of the stage. You have to think only from lessee's point of view. Lesser side accounting is the same accounting what was there before also. That doesn't mean that it's not important. People thought that only. First 2 exam lesser questions came. Institute thought that they are becoming friendly with the people because people already do AS90, no, same accounting they are asking. But stupid people did not expect that. What they thought is lessee accounting is new, no, they focused more on that. Lesser accounting ignored. What questions came is IPCC questions came. People messed it up. Don't play games. Actually, lesser side accounting is not very important. And a hint IC only gave and they backstabbed students. Originally, sir, 50 questions are there, sir. And 44 questions are lessee only. 4 questions are lesser. 2 questions are conversion from old IND AS to this new IND AS. What will anybody think, sir? After doing so many hours, let's see with so many questions you do, small, big, put together. I think lessee accounting is very important. That will ask lessor accounting. That too not this question, IPCC question. People royally messed it up. If it is reasonably certain that lessee will not exercise this option, the assessment of lease term shall be done on the commencement date. Why sir, why not on inception date? You will understand in the next level when you start accounting. This term what you are determining is directly related to your accounting number. Since accounting is going to happen, asset liability accounting is going to happen only on the commencement date, it's more appropriate that you work out lease term on the commencement date. Number 3. Lease term should consider only that period which is enforceable. An arrangement is not enforceable if both lessee and lessor have a right to terminate the contract with an insignificant penalty without the approval of other party. The lease term should include even the period which is covered by lessor's option to terminate. Lessor has a right to terminate the contract after 7 years. Don't take it too seriously. 7 plus 3, total 10 years you are going to include. Lessee कहते 3 years part you will include only when it is reasonably certain that lessee is not going to excess. Yes, my yours. Both have right to extend means what is the meaning of that? Think once and answer. Think. What is the meaning of both the parties have a right to extend? What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? Chappu. Who will extend? Sir, listen. Never ever lessor will have a right to extend. You see, I have covered all the cases except that case. Lessor will never have a right to extend. Who is he to ask me to stay in the building forcibly for another 3 years, sir? Lessor will not have right to extend. Only lessee will have. Lessor will have a right to terminate the contract. Are you understand? And that period anyway we are taking him late, no? So don't bother. Okay, last point. The last point is about reassessment, sir. After the commencement date, the standard requires the lessee to monitor the lease for any significant developments which may trigger a change in lease term. Construction of significant leasehold improvements. This is a sign that option to extend likely to be exercised. Making significant modifications or customization to the asset. First one and second one ka ultimate conclusion is same, but example are not same. First one is on the asset, again you have built something. Let's say you have done an interior work done, and these days interiors is not cheap, sir. It's very costly. That's the interior first one. Second one is modifications you have done. For example, you broke some wall, you constructed a new wall, you have created a partition there, or you have converted the balcony also into a room, part of the room, like that you did. All this you doing indicates that you are going to use the asset for a longer period of time, because you do all modifications, but once lease term is over, you have to again reconvert it back into original shape and deliver it back. So I would not incur all that expenses unless I believe that I am going to use the asset for a longer period of time. So that definitely requires a reassessment of lease term. So that part, that example. Number 3. This is also a very good example. Subleasing the asset. Sir, again, old example only. Original 5 non-cancelable, extra 5 I can take. What I did, I have a right to sublease also. I originally thought that lease term is equal to 5 years only. Accounting has happening first year, second year, third year. Fourth year, what I did, a building, I subleased it to somebody for 6 years. If I subleased this building to somebody for a period of 6 years, what does it imply, sir? First of all, I am going to use this building for the remaining 5 years also. No? So that is a very clear-cut confirmation that option to extend is going to be exercised. So you have to reassess your lease term from 5 to 10 years right now. For example. Number 4. Making business decisions that have impact on lease term. The example I already gave you. You taking another floor in the same building for a much longer period because your business in that area is going very well. So if another portion only you have taken, that means the existing portion of lease also is going to be extended. Or a particular machine where some government has put some restrictions, you decided not to use that machine anymore. So for your business asset does not help anymore, so you will not extend it anymore, you will reduce the lease term. like this. So these are about your lease term and all. On the small questions are there. We'll finish off that questions and again get back to new discussion. What was the last question we solved? Okay, 12th one time is there. 16th one, please. Please read, sir. Entity ABC enters into a lease for equipment that includes a non-cancelable term of 6 years, okay, and a 2-year fixed price renewal with future lease payment that are intended to approximate market rates at lease inception. There are no termination penalties or other factors indicating that ABC is reasonably certain to exercise the renewal option. What is the lease term? Sir, prima facie 6 years, sir. If I want extra, I can extend it by 2 years. Standing on first day, it is not very reasonably certain that an extension option will be taken or exercised. So lease term will be 6 or 8? Only 6. That too, there is one more line given in the question. You know what is that? He says, even if you extend the lease for another 2 years, our 2 years have to pay rent at market terms. Market lo what rate is there? Our rate have to pay rent. If anyway market rate have to pay rent, our decision why will I take now? I will take this decision really only after 6 years now. Adi if you tell me, irrespective of market rent, same rate I will give you lease for another 2 years also. Then I might be favoring to extend the lease. So, this first question is a very clear cut case. A question is present, sir. There is no penalties or any other factors indicating that there is a reasonable certainty to exercise or renewal option. So 6 years only answer. Next. Entity XYZ enters into lease for a building that includes a non-cancelable term of 8 years and a 2-year market price renewal option. Before it takes possession of the building, entity XYZ pays for leasehold improvements. And the leasehold improvements are expected to have a significant value at the end of the 8 years, and that value can only be realized through continued occupancy of the leased property. What is the lease term? So, in case it is 8 plus 2, but this fellow has constructed some huge assets inside this building, and a huge asset will still have value at the end of 8th year. You want to enjoy that benefit also, then use the building for another 2 years also. So, what is the chance of extending it? Very likely. So, you will take the lease term as 10 years. Very cheap. Next. Entity PQR enters into a lease for an identified retail space in a shopping center. The retail space will be available to entity PQR for only the months of October, November and December for a non-cancelable term of 7 years. Sir, can I take lease term like this? Period of usage, can it be like this non-consecutive periods? Yes. The lessor agrees to provide the same retail space for each of the 7 years. Same retail space you are going to get is a clarity that physically distinct and there is a identified asset. It's not like some place I will give in this building, not like that. If it is like that, then physically distinct all point gets failed. No. So to cover that line they kept. What is the lease term? What is the lease term, sir? Every year 3 months. Like that for how many years? 7 years. So total 21. That's all. 21 is the lease. Retailer M enters into a 5-year lease for a building floor, followed by 2 successive 5-year renewal options. So first 5, if I want again 5, again 5. On the commencement date, retailer M is not reasonably certain to exercise the extension option, which means prima facie lease term is 5 years. But at the end of 3rd year, retailer M extended to include another floor from year 4 due to a business acquisition, which means I acquired some other company, sir. Now my operations became huge. E-space is not sufficient. So I take another floor also above. And that another floor from year 4 due to business acquisition. For this purpose, lessee concludes a separate 7-year lease for an additional floor in the building already leased. That means there are two floors, sir. Let's say there is a original floor and there is a new floor. The original floor, you originally thought that you will use it only for a period of 5 years, though you had a chance of extending it for another 5 years also, but you did not think so. In new floor, you have taken at the end of 3rd year. So in new floor, so 4th year, 5th year, 6th year, 7th year, 8th year, 9th year, 10th year, another 7 years ki in new floor is going to be used by you. Now you tell me, you taking an additional floor, is it not indirectly confirming that the existing floor also extension option will be exercised? Yes. So you definitely have to reassess the lease term. Retail M will have to reassess the lease term at the end of 3rd year. Company N has taken 10 vehicles on lease for an initial period of 5 years with an extension option at the option of the lessee for a further period of 5 years at the same rental amount, and the remaining life of the vehicles on the commencement date is 15 years. So original period 5 years, sir. If I want, I can take another 5 years extra also. Company N determined at the commencement date that it is reasonably certain to exercise the extension option, and it has taken a period of 10 years for the lease. Fair enough. In the 4th year ending, there is an announcement by the government that all the cars of this particular model have to be discontinued from the road within 1 year due to the change in the pollution norms in the country. Will the lease term will be reassessed in this case? Of course you have to reassess. Originally you thought 10 years, but in 4th year you understood that within 1 year only asset cannot be used. Now your reassessed lease term overall is only 5 years, remaining only 1 year. That's all, sir. So 19th question and all, we have to cover more concepts. Before that, some 3-4 questions also I left. For that also, extra concepts we have to cover. Anyway, next concept, go on listening, sir. Little easy only, but lengthy one. I'll make you read later on, sir. Timing watch. It is separation and combination. So what is this separation and combination is? Sir, this fellow is the lessee, and then there is a lessor. There are 3 assets in discussion. All 3 assets ke part is same, sir. Okay, now the question is very simple. A lessee fellow, should he account for each asset separately or for all assets combinedly? That's the question. Separately means ROU asset account debit to lease liability entry is there, no? This he should pass for A, again for B, again for C separately. Is this correct? Or he should pass this entry ROU asset to lease liability for A plus B plus C together. ఎట్లయినా ఒకటే కదా సార్? No, it's not like that. When you take numbers and all, things will change, sir. So point is simple, sir. Should I consider this entire thing as a single lease or separate leases? Another question. Yes, sir. First thing is, the standard says, depends on what? You tell me your idea first. Okay, lease period is not a very great answer. Next. No. Nature of asset, how? If one is building, one is plant and machinery, then I should not account like that. I mean to say like that. Not period of usage. Cash flow, sir. Where is it coming, sir? Either చెప్తారేంటి sir? Okay, listen. Enough, I understood your answer. Okay, sir. You have to treat them as separate lease contracts. If you want to do them separate accounting, then 2 conditions you have to satisfy. Everywhere 2 conditions, 3 conditions is common sense, and get used to it. last law will recap at one stage. Okay. Anyway, what he says is, you want to do accounting like this, then the two conditions you have to satisfy is, each asset is capable of giving a future economic benefits to the lessee on its own. That means each asset is independently capable of delivering benefit to the lessee, either on its own or with other resources available with the lessee. That means, sir, can asset A give benefit on its own? Yes, sir, asset A can give benefit on its own, but power connection is required. Power connection is there with the lessee, no. So with that resource, machine A is capable of giving benefit. Sir, machine A or machine B, machine C, if any of these assets are capable of giving benefits individually to lessee on their own or with the help of some other resources which are already there with the lessee, there is one condition where you have to recognize each of them as a separate asset. Number two condition is, the asset should not be highly interlinked or interdependent with each other. For example, sir, I took these three assets, no? These three assets are working like this. A, B, C, they are forming part of an assembly line, sir. That means raw material will go here, is the first stage WIP, is second stage WIP, is the finished goods. A cannot live without B, B cannot live without C. Triangle love story is happening. Highly interlinked, sir. It's highly interlinked, you should not separate them. It's not right, no. So, when they are going on some understanding, you also treat them, you also treat them as a single asset. Okay, listen. This is one example. Another example. Okay, example is over. Okay, get out of that. Sir, asset A is a building. Asset B is a plant and machinery. Asset C is a car. Tell me, sir, they are highly interdependent. Huh? No, each asset is capable of giving benefit on its own, but less or less part is same. Just because parties are same, you should not club them. Here A ki, B ki, C ki, you have to do separate ROE accounting, lease liability accounting. Okay, so you can club them, means independently they should be capable of giving benefit, and they should not be highly interlinked or interrelated to one another. Okay, point, sir. So first write this point, because there is another discussion. If I tell that, you will start shouting. First point. Heading you put, sir, separation and combination of contracts. Separation and combination of contracts. That first point. If the contract contains multiple assets, then each asset has to be accounted separately if two conditions are satisfied. First one, each asset is capable of providing. FEB means you will understand, no? On its own So let's say I've taken a equipment, okay, not equipment. Let's say I've taken a car on lease. Along with the car, 2 tires also I've taken on lease. Car also, tires also. Now tell me, sir, will the tire work without the car? No. Tire is not capable of giving any individual economic benefits without the car. So first point you will fail off, sir. The moment you have failed there, you can't account tire car lease accounting separately. You have to club them only and treat them as a single leased asset, even though technically they are 2 separate assets. And get you out. Same party, same contract law. You've taken building also, plant and machinery also. Separately only, no? Without building, plant and machinery, you cannot keep on road and function, no? Building you have taken on lease, plant and machinery also have taken on lease. Building also is giving you benefit, plant and machinery is also giving you a benefit, no? Building, see, benefit means it's not always building I should use it for the purpose of production or I should earn rental income out of that and all, no? Direct and indirect benefits. Now tell me, sir, if you don't take the building and you don't have any building on your own, only plant and machinery you take it on lease, where will you put that plant and machinery? So you need a place, no? A place ki building also you took. So building is ultimately giving you benefit or not? Yes, that's all. And without machinery also, building is capable of giving you benefit. We're not saying you should really enjoy benefit from building separately. Look at the language there. Capable of giving future economic benefit. Building on its own, capable. Plant and machinery on its own, capable. You have taken both. Doesn't mean that they are highly interrelated. Of course, if they are very highly interrelated, then of course you are not going to club them. An example is there for this also. Anyway, later on it's going to come, but still I'll tell you. Suppose, sir, you have taken a building. Along with this building, you have taken furniture also. Along with that, you have taken heating, ventilation and air conditioning system also. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, can you take it separately without taking the building? No, sir. Sir, HVAC system is not like this kind of split AC, sir. Are duct ACs which are directly fitted into the walls. You see centralized ACs, how they work? That one. Tell me, sir, can I take that independently? Not possible. That means, even though this normally is a separate asset, but the HVAC system cannot work without the help of the building. Technically, 3 assets are there, but only 2 leased assets are there. This plus this is 1. Furniture individually also is capable of giving a separate asset. The question is there, sir. Later on it will come. So whatever you have asked is this only, but you are having too futuristic view. We'll discuss that. Anyway, sir, tell me, is separation or combination I point to? Heading you wrote separation and combination, no? Is separation or combination? So, this is separation only. Anyway, combination also will come. We'll join them, don't worry. Okay, next. Okay, look at another. Listen. Sir, lessor lessee, they entered into a contract. A contract law, sir, there is a lease component also, and then there is a non-lease component also. Normally, this standard is applicable only for the lease component. So, whatever 116 rules are there, you have to apply only for this period. Sir, example first. Let's say, building lease I took, sir. Lessor told, if you are taking building, I am willing to provide maintenance services if you pay me some amount. So I agreed. That means building also, maintenance services also. Tell me, sir, maintenance services what lessor is giving, okay, is that part of the lease? No, but this and that both are in the same contract. Ideally, what you have to do is, whatever consideration you pay to this fellow, a consideration must be split into how much is related to lease and how much is related to non-lease component. That means towards building, how much am I paying? Towards any goods or services for that, how much am I paying? Sir, on what basis will you split, sir? Split in SASP, stands for standalone selling price. Only building, if you go and buy, or if you sell a building, what amount will you get? Only a service you provide, how much amount you get? Like that, indirectly fair value say, sir, but it's not literally the fair value. It's like each building, market, what is the value of that building? Our services ka worth how much? Our ratio you have to split. More clarity on SASP 115 you will see how to determine that SAP. In that again methods are there. We'll detail it, see what to do, how to determine standalone selling prices. So E ratio you have to split. Now once you say, for example, I am paying him 2 lakhs per annum, sir. You did this splitting. You understood that 1,80,000 relates here, 20,000 relates to services. Tell me, sir, maintenance services ka amount you paid, what is the treatment? Maintenance services, sir, normal. What will you do? Throw it in P&L account. Regarding this 1,80,000, you will apply IND AS 116. Are you clear here, sir? So the point here, what you have to understand is, if a contract contains lease as well as non-lease component, the consideration in the contract must be split towards lease and non-lease component in the ratio of their standalone selling prices. Timing you understand as fair value, no problem. More clearly I will tell you when we do IND AS 115. E standard later they will give off in the question, don't worry. Okay, this is one case. There is another example, look at this. Same only, building. Now this fellow is a lessor. Let's see. What I am paying him is rent for building I am paying. For maintenance services also I am paying. Up to here, just like above example. I am reimbursing admin expenses. Sir, what is reimbursement of admin expenditure? For example, a building with property tax pay, sir. Normally property tax who will pay? Owner will pay. And a lessor should pay. But as a part of the deal, lessor told that I will give you this building on lease only if you only pay the property tax. So first lessor will pay, lessee is supposed to reimburse. So in this, how many components are there if you observe? This is lease component, sir. This is non-lease component. Non-lease component means it's not lease, but some goods and services I am receiving and I am paying something. A third one is neither a lease component nor a non-lease component. What is that, sir? His expenditure I am reimbursing. For that, will you get any additional goods and services, sir? Nothing. As a part of the lease agreement contract, I am reimbursing his expenditure also. For that, I am not going to get any indirect benefits. But then, sir, then why are you paying, sir? As a condition, if I don't agree for this, a first two he will not give me. What he said? He wants this building, property tax also, you only have to pay. What choice did I have? No. Okay, said. I fine, sir, I will reimburse. But this is not a non-lease component because you are not receiving any goods and services for this. What our standard says is, building, which is a lease component, services or goods also in some cases, which is the non-lease component, and then the third component, which is reimbursement. What the standard guide says, a reimbursement cost is there, no? This again you split it between these two. Already consideration you are splitting between building and services. Not only that, that consideration which was allocated to reimbursement, amount again you take and split it between lease and non-lease components. Sir, correctly understand, sir. Lease I am taking, services I am taking. Asal for this I am not getting anything, but still I am paying this, no. That means indirectly you are paying this for both of these two only. So allocate this for both of these two only. That's what the standard is guiding. Sir, accounting how to do, sir? Accounting what is there, sir? Services cost accounting, throw it off in P&L. Building lease accounting we will yet to discuss. But you already know roughly. ROE asset account debit to lease liability until you have to throw off that. That's how it's going to happen. So till now, Second point, how many points I told is, when a contract consists of lease and non-lease component, you have to split the consideration into lease and non-lease in the ratio of their standalone selling prices. Generally, a non-lease component ki standard will not apply. Whatever standard applies, we apply. No standard applies, throw it off in P&L account. Building lease ki, of course, or asset lease ki anyway standard will apply. In case the lessee is reimbursing any administration cost of the lessor, then such administration costs reimbursement also should be allocated to lease and non-lease components in the ratio of, again, same standalone selling prices. Up to clear clarity is there? Now final twist. A contract law lease is there, non-lease component is there, admin expenses reimbursement is there. This fellow is lessor, this fellow is lessee. Tell me, sir, what he has to do ideally, lessee, based on our past discussion? This contract physically okate contract, make it 3 pieces now. One piece will be accounted under 116. One piece, the last piece, admin expenses, that will be allocated between lease and non-lease. A non-lease component normal accounting, sir. Goods are accounted as purchase, services are recognized as an expenditure, like that, whatever is appropriate. Up to here we will have learned now. Now, the standard throws a practical expedient. Sir, what is this new name, sir? Latest standard, sir. Okay. Normally, the term expediting, you have heard this? Expedite. Expedite means quickening up the things, speeding up the things. We call it as, sir, please expedite the process. Expedite means making things happen quickly. Now, practical expedient means you sitting and splitting this contract into 3 parts. One part 116, one part some other standard, one part again allocation. Don't do all this. Practical expedient is lessee may treat the entire contract as a lease contract. Our contract lease is there, non-lease is there, some other unrelated expenditure is also there. You have to ideally split it. If you want to split, you can go ahead. But his standard says, you don't want to do all that, don't do. Don't do. Entire contract, treat it as a single lease contract. That means, whatever consideration our boy is paying here, inka consideration mottam you will accept it as a lease payment. You are not going to split it. This services ki, this administration, nothing like that. The entire contract ni lease accounting you will do off. This is practical expedient antar, sir. Practical expedient means it's just to save time and effort. Standard sometimes give you certain benefits like this. When we do 115, one more practical expedient is there. What is that is? My normal credit period of sales is, let us say, 2 months. But for a particular debtor, I sold goods with 1 year credit period. But 1 year credit period when I give, for a sale price definitely interest will be included, no? What is our normal rule? Debtors, sales, both should be recognized at a cash price or present value. But what the standard says is, as a matter of practical expedient, if you want, if the time gap is not exceeding 12 months, ignore that. Don't do any present value, cash price accounting, unwinding of discount, don't do all that. Directly record debtor to sales, full value. If I want, I can discount and do. But how much is the time gap there? 1 year. 1 year, what discounting, again unwinding, why to do all that? Leave it. Debtor to sales, gross amount curate off. Sir, my sales interest amount is there, sir. If I write that entry, entire interest will come to P&L today only, sir. Let it come. Let it come. Wrong, let it come. Because it's only 1 year, sir. It won't amount very significant. Likewise, here also, you observe this. If the lessee chooses to use this option and treat the entire contract as a lease, don't you see, in a way, ROU asset and lease liability balances are going to get inflated in the balance sheet. Actually, asset liability should recognize only for the lease component, but the other 2 components are also indirectly getting included in your ROU asset and correspondingly lease liability. In fact, yes, these 2 are getting inflated. Standard says no problem, do it. But this option is available only for the lessee, not for the lessor. Lessor cannot treat this. So lessor story is different, sir. What finance lease, operating lease, accounting he has to do. So for him, asset ki finance lease, operating lease separately it will apply. So for lessee ki expedient is given. So did you understand something? So first I told you that you have to split, how to split. Reimbursement, what to do I have discussed. Then lastly expedient I told you that you need not do any of this. Sir, questions they will give you this, sir. They will clearly give you, this fellow has chosen this option, he has not chosen this option. You should know both. Option lessee, sir. No lessee kaadu, sir. You have to learn everything. You are a student. Right. Second point. If the contract also contains a non-lease component, for supply of goods or services by the lessor, it should be separated from the lease component. Is a reimbursement point. Agrees to reimburse any expenses to lessor. Without receiving in second point till last dot. This is about the practical expedient. Practical expedients are reliefs basically. India is 116 permits lessee to treat the lease and non-lease components together as a single lease component. Sir, this option is there only for the lessee, sir. Should be careful, lessor, this is not there. Okay, okay. Right, right, right. So first one is separation. The second point is also kind of separation, but it's not separation of leased assets. It's separation of lease and non-lease components. The last one is combination. Right, sir. Last point. Last point you listen. Later on we'll write. Sir, this is about combination, sir. That means A, B, C, three assets. Part is same, sir. This boy is the lessor. This boy is the lessee. Three assets we have taken. Three contracts are entered at or more or less the same time between the same parties. Sir, A ka contract happened 2 years ago. B ka contract happened today. C ka contract happened 5 years ago. Will I treat them combinedly? How can I treat them combinedly, sir? So we can treat them combinedly as a discussion itself will come only when the contracts are entered at more or less the same time. And legally they entered into three different contracts. It is separate contract, it is separate contract, is separate contract. When normally three contracts are there, general idea is what? Each asset separate leave account. But here standard gives you three criteria. ఈ త్రీ క్రైటీరియాలో any of the three criteria, any one criteria you pass, then all three assets, even though legally they are separate contracts, accounting purpose we club them and treat them as a single asset. This is combination, sir. Earlier what we discussed was separation. Separation of what we told is, in a single contract, multiple assets are there. Just because contract is one, don't club them and account them separately. If each asset is capable of giving future economic benefits on their own and it is not highly interlinked or interdependent with other assets. Adi we discuss. Akkada contract okate, but multiple assets, separate accounting. Here, contracts separate, but still I will combine them as if they are a single asset, if any one of the three criteria is satisfied. In that first one is, they have been negotiated as a single package. Negotiated as a single package means it's like, let's see saying, sir, all three assets I am taking, no sir. So lease rents accordingly he has bargained it. It's like, well, at the time of paying fees, you also bargain like that, you know, sir, FR also here only, SFM also here only, law also here only. So you, whether you will get or not is a different thing. But bargaining is happening, no. So like that, if the lease rents in this contract is negotiated as a single package, then you cannot treat each contract as a separate asset. You have to club them as a single asset and you have to account it. Sir, negotiation ki clubbing of contracts ki where is the link? Sir, it's like this. A ki, B ki, C ki, individually if you take, lease rents prices might be different. But since you have taken all the three, lessor might have given you some concession. Now that lessor is bothered not about A ki how much you are giving, B ki how much you are giving, C ki how much you are, he is not bothered about that. What he is bothering? Overall money he is bothered. So each contract law, one contract law you might have written higher price, one contract law you might have recorded lower price. If I start accounting them separately, each asset, each liability will be either overstated or understated. Because lessor is bothering about overall revenue. You also bothered about overall payment. So individual contract law, the numbers what you wrote regarding lease rents in A contract, B contract, C contract, our numbers have lost their trust now. Because A is not negotiated individually, B is not negotiated individually. Overall negotiation in, sir. So for the sake of it, some amount you might have written in the contract, our number I will not trust. That's what the standard intention is behind this. Okay, either this you pass, you want clubbing, or amount of consideration payable in one contract is linked to performance of asset in another contract. So these people have agreed like this. A, B, C, three assets are there. These people manipulated the lease rents are. Actually, this is high value item. But lease rent they kept high here. Here lease rent they kept it small. So actually this is high value item, sir. But contract law lease rent is given higher for asset A for so many reasons. Maybe some tax benefits he will get, or more deduction he will get, or some benefits from the government they will get for some reason. Now, it is actually very low value asset, means it's a small value asset. But we have artificially increased the lease rent in this contract. Lessee lessor will not have any problem for this because overall the lease rent is same only. So lessee will not object, lessor also will not object. But lease rents are manipulated individually if you see. Overall the same only, sir. Now, lessee obviously will say A is a small value asset, but contractually he has to pay a huge lease rent. A inside knows a lease rent what he is paying is actually not for A, is actually for B. So A in the contract said that a lease rent I will pay to you only if asset B is remaining operational throughout the year. Why that condition is kept? Because a huge lease rent, whatever is written in the asset A ka contract, a lease rent actually does not belong to A. A lease rent belongs to asset B. Manipulation partly it came like that. But A is not a stupid no. If I manipulate like this and continue like this, what will B do? Tomorrow a B asset one problem came, sir. Lessor says he will not repair. You still have to pay huge lease rent because you wrote lease rent in asset A contract, huge lease rent you wrote. So there is every chance that in manipulation you yourself can get cheated. So lessee also becomes smart. He says that A ka lease rent I will pay only if B is working well. So that he is indirectly binding the lessor to repair the asset correctly. So in cases lo, these overactions are standard catches. Any practical people do, sir. Otherwise standard, why will it get all these ideas? People do. I also did once. Not in lease case, but something like this. Okay, third one. Third one is a simple thing, sir. Even though three contracts are there, three assets are there, the assets are in substance a single asset. Mean to say, like earlier example I gave, adok assembly line, sir. Assembly line means many assets will be there in that line and all assets will work together. Each asset cannot work on its own. So raw material I should feed into A will give you WIP, which should go to B, B should go to again C, C will give you ultimately finished goods. What I have done for this one contract, for this one contract, for this one contract, does not mean that you will record ROU asset to lease liability wala entry for A, B, C separately. What you have taken is entire assembly line you have taken on lease, not individual assets. So in that case, even though three contracts are there, the standard says nothing doing, club them and do a combined accounting. So E3 scenarios low, sorry, E3 criteria low, one criteria at least you pass, we will do combination accounting. So first point was separation of assets in lease. Second point was contract low, lease and non-lease unte separation with practical expedient. Third part, separate contract but still club them and account it as a single contract. Having clarity here? We'll write this point later on. First do some questions. And what happened? And for everything we have a problem. Come to question number 12, page number 379. One more point is pending, we'll write that later on. First to finish off these questions. A lessee enters a lease of an excavator and the related accessories. For example, excavator attachments. So two assets are taking, sir. Excavator also, accessories also, which are used for mining purposes. The lessee is a local mining company that intends to use the excavator at a copper mine. Nice. How many lease and non-lease components are there? So non-lease component is there in this? goods and services are you obtaining from him? No, there is no non-lease component. Pakka lease. How many assets are there? Two. One is excavator and accessories. Technically, two assets are there. Now, should I treat them as two different assets or should I club them? We are not talking about combination of contracts. Combination of contract discussion is different. That is what three separate contracts into clubbing. I am not talking about that now. What I am talking is, okate contractor, two assets are there. Should I write ROU asset to lease liability entry for excavator separately, accessories separately, or together I should write? Reason, sir, a excavator is capable of functioning on its own independently, but accessory is not capable of giving any future economic benefit independently on its own. Moreover, it is highly interdependent and interlinked with the main asset. So, accessory and a asset is not capable of giving you individually economic benefits, sir. It has to be clubbed with the excavator physically also, accounting law also. Next, scenario B. Assume the same facts as in scenario A, except that the contract also conveys the right to use an additional loading truck. The truck could be deployed by the lessee for other uses, like transport of iron ores at other mine also. Now, total, technically if you count to three assets, excavator, accessories and truck. And a truck can be used for any purpose it seems. So, truck is capable of giving us individual economic benefits and it's not highly interrelated or interlinked with other assets in the lease contract. So, truck is one asset. Already we decided that excavator plus accessories put together is one asset. Overall, how many assets? Two assets. Entity L rents a office building from landlord M for a term of 10 years. The rental contract stipulates that the office is fully furnished and has a newly installed and tailored HVAC system. HVAC is, I told you, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. It also requires landlord M to perform all common area maintenance during the term of the arrangement. Wait there. First building we have taken. Then it should be furnished and it should have a air conditioning system installed inside the building. And next, maintenance service also has to provide. Entity L makes a single monthly rental payment and does not pay for the maintenance separately. And indirectly, a monthly payment lone everything is included. Office building life 40 years, HVAC system and furniture each has a life of 15 years. He's asking what are the units of account in the lease. Units of account in the lease ante he's asking lease assets are how many he's asking. As discussed earlier this example, there is a building. Building will come along with HVAC system. Tell me sir, heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, is it capable of giving you benefits on its own individually without the help of building? It is highly interlinked with the building. So even though there are two different assets normally, that means you can find a building without HVAC system, but you won't find a HVAC system capable of giving benefit without the building. So these two has to be treated as a single asset. Furnished antunnaru kabatti definitely furniture also is there in the picture. A furniture is definitely a separate asset. Common area maintenance is also there. That is your non-lease component. So whatever monthly payment you are making, a monthly payment you have to split it into three parts now, in the ratio of SASP. Next. A lessee enters into a 5 years lease of equipment with a fixed annual payment of 8,000 rent, 1,500 for maintenance and 500 for admin task. How the consideration will be allocated? Sir, 8,000 rent, 1,500 maintenance, 500 rupees administrative task. How the consideration would be allocated? Sir, total consideration is how much? 8,000, 1,500 and 500. Total it is 10,000. What you have to do is, first one is what building, rent and no equipment, that's not building. Equipment. Next one is maintenance services. What you have to do is, total you are paying 10,000 no? In 10,000 lo keep 500 aside. Which 500 is that? Administrative. That is not a lease, that is not a non-lease. Keep it aside. So remainder is how much? 9,500. ఈ ఎక్విప్మెంట్కి మెయింటెనెన్స్ సర్వీసెస్కి వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇస్ ద స్టాండ్ అలోన్ సెల్లింగ్ ప్రైస్ యూ వర్కౌట్. క్వశ్చన్ దే డిడ్ నాట్ గివ్, మార్కెట్లో యూ వర్కౌట్. ఈ రేషియో యూ టేక్. ఈ రేషియోలో 9,500ని యూ స్ప్లిట్ ఇట్ ఇంటూ ఎక్విప్మెంట్ లీజ్ హౌ మచ్, మెయింటెనెన్స్ సర్వీసెస్కి హౌ మచ్. నౌ వాట్ ఈస్ లెఫ్ట్ నౌ? 500 rupees is left. ఈ 500 again go and allocate it to equipment and maintenance in the same ratio what discussed earlier. Entire 10,000 you should not allocate, sir. First ఆ 10,000లో 500 rupees is any reimbursement. No, అది fair price గా ఉంటుంది, దాన్ని తీసేసేయండి సార్ పక్కకి. ఆ రిమైనింగ్ పోర్షన్ you have to adjust ideally. Of course your data and all is not there, so otherwise I would have done. He simply said that you should allocate and all. Lastly he again tells you this. ఇది not asked for but he wrote. You also can write. Assuming that lessee does not elect to use the practical expedient. Does not elect means he does not want to treat this entire thing as a single lease component. Then definitely he has to split. Ideally writing this answer only is safe, sir. You should not do overaction that practical expedient is there, no. So I will treat entirely as a single lease component. I will not allocate anything and also you can escape actually. But కొంచెం రిస్క్ సార్, అయినా పర్లేదు అనుకుని చేయొచ్చు. ఒకసారి చేసి చూడండి తెలుస్తుంది. Question number 15. What happened? Oh, you're hungry. Oh, okay. Read it. A lessee enters into a lease of equipment. The contract stipulates that lessor will perform maintenance of the leased equipment. So lease maintenance services both. And receives consideration for the maintenance service. Contract includes following fixed prices for lease and non-lease components. So in the contract we wrote that lease ki 80,000, maintenance ki 10,000, total 90,000. This under the contract what we wrote. Assume SASP cannot be readily observed, so lessee makes estimates maximizing the usage of observable information of lease and non-lease components as under. Lease ka indirectly standalone selling prices are estimated 85,000 and 15,000. Tell me what should I do now? You will charge 85, 15? No sir. 85 is to 15 ratio, what will you allocate? Good. A contract lo whatever 80, 10 he wrote, I trap sir, don't touch that. Overall are you paying how much? 90. 90,000 you split it in the ratio of 85 is to 15. Whatever numbers come like that you have to split. Contract lo you wrote 80, 10. No, contract lo you write anything. That is irrelevant. Sir, contract lo this fellow will even write ఇక్కడ 10,000 ఇక్కడ 80,000 కూడా రాస్తాడు సార్, వాడిదేం పోయింది. అది యాక్సెప్ట్ చేశారు అనుకోండి సార్, ఎంటైర్ 80,000 P&L అవుతుంది సార్ సర్వీసెస్. అది 10,000 క్యాపిటలైజ్ అవుతుంది. యూ విల్ బి చీటింగ్ యువర్ ఫైనాన్షియల్స్. అది అండర్స్టాండ్. సో కాంట్రాక్ట్లో వాట్ ఈస్ రిటన్ అది ఇర్రెలవెంట్. అందుకని స్టాండ్ అలోన్ సెల్లింగ్ ప్రైస్తో టోటల్ లీజ్ రండి, అగైన్ యూ హెవ్ టు సిట్ అండ్ స్ప్లిట్. వాట్ ఈ రోట్ ఇన్సైడ్ ద కాంట్రాక్ట్ ఈజ్ ఆఫ్ నో యూస్ ఫర్ అస్. సార్ 17:3 హౌ డిడ్ ఇట్ కమ్ సార్? అందుకే 5 టేబుల్ చదువుకోవాలి సార్, 5 టేబుల్. సో దట్ ఈస్ 85:15. Okay, fine. Our ratio is split and do the account. Write that last point, sir. So tomorrow we'll write, sir. Okay. Well tried. No. Arey, right. First again, put right. Abba. No surprise in another class. If 2 or more contracts Not all, sir. Any one of the following criteria. First one is the contracts have been negotiated as a single package. The consideration for one asset is linked to performance of another asset. Number 3.